under our breath, covered by the sling in the mud. There's a hope that's hidden in the waters below, patiently waiting its turn. We have been scratching at the surface of things. The rivers run underneath, 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 underneath.
Every person has at some point in their life asked, who am I and why am I here? And they ask these questions to define themselves and to come to some realization of a meta-narrative or an understanding of life's meaning. Whoever, whatever created the world defines meaning and meta-narrative. It defines them both. And if random chance created the world, then there is no purpose. There is no innate meaning. Everything just happens by itself, and it just exists without an end. But if God created the world, there is a purpose. There is an end of it all. There is a goal, because God has created the world a certain way, and by living, we glorify Him and we live out His plan. So that's the importance of the act of creating. Whatever is created is defined by the Creator. The act of creating gives meaning. When God created the world, He created Adam in His likeness and with His characteristics and with His attributes. And so God creates, humanity creates, people create. We make things in our image, just as God has made us in His image. We were created to make things that glorify God. Since we are made in God's image, we create just as He creates, except we do it on a smaller scale. We reorganize the materials we have, and we categorize them, we catalog them, we figure out how to use them. And part of that is, in Genesis 1:28, God says to Adam, be fruitful and multiply, fill and subdue the earth. And part of taking dominion of the earth is learning about it and using its resources to make life better. God created people with the purpose of glorifying Him. So whatever we do, we are to point kind of everything back to Him and do everything for Him. And when we don't, we create things that are wrong, that are immoral, that are obscene, that do not please God. Humanity's fallen and we're sinful and we mess up.
Superficiality.
And creative process is definitely plagued by human behavior. In Genesis, when Adam has Seth, it says that Seth was made in the likeness of Adam and not of God. And so, because of Adam's sin, people have fallen from a state of perfection into a state of despair and hopelessness. And so, our creative power, our creative capacity gets abused and misused because we're sinful. And we don't seek to glorify God, we seek to glorify ourselves. We create things that reflect our character, which is not godly, which is not holy. By doing so, we misuse that gift that God has given us. The misuse of creative power produces idols and a humanity that doesn't understand itself. It produces a dead art. I mean, it's just nothing but despair and chaos and self-definition. You see all kinds of pieces that people put together, and it's just, what on earth are they thinking? To the viewer, it doesn't communicate. It just says, I am what I am, and accept me, or there's nothing more to it. When they redefine themselves, they lose the purpose of being creative. We're seeing now what Nietzsche predicted in his poem. He basically says that Western society is built on the premise of God. So when society announces that God is dead, we announce our death as well. I believe I have my calling to reach people through the venues of art and technology they've come to love, specifically with the arts that pertain to everyday life. In many ways, technology, which is the work of our hands, is harmful when people do not understand the purpose and the origin of creation. I don't know how this will all pan out, but currently I'm interested in transportation design, product design, and industrial engineering. And depending on where the Lord leads, I will hopefully start a design firm that will have an influence on the community I'm in for the gospel and monetarily. But the most important thing to me is the redemption of creativity in content and style. It doesn't have to be about God or the Bible, but it does need to be in accordance with scriptural morality. Inform. Part of making great art is making it understandable to the passerby, yet profound enough for somebody to come along and study it. I think our primary example of this is the gospel. It's concise, it's specific, but it's loaded with material. And every time you reread a passage, you get a deeper meaning, because it is the ultimate message. Most of popular Christian art today, music, literature, and the visual arts just doesn't make the gravy. They borrow a lot of artistic components from the secular world, which is the seedbed of anti-biblical ideas. And so most of the time, the original message of the gospel is hindered and is often replaced by a completely ungodly one. And I'm not saying that we should go live in a monastery and sing Gregorian chant, though that would be kind of cool. But I think there's a problem when the Christian artist uses the same method to communicate the gospel as the secular media does to communicate hedonism.
We have been scratching at the surface of things. When rivers run underneath, put your ear to the ground and your fist through the wall. Chase the rumbling sound, saying maybe we're not dead after all.
There are millions of souls to be saved, and I have but one life. So I constantly ask myself, what will I do? Who will I influence? And whose legacy will I leave? Will it be mine, or will it be God's?
It's not too late to start our hearts beating again. Not too late to wake up to a dream. Not too late to walk together to the water's edge. Kneel down and take a drink.
It's not important for people to recognize my face.
We have been scratching at the surface of things,
but rather that they recognize Christ who lives within me.
and rivers run